They charge.
They wouldn't charge you interest if it was the first time. Like let's say all of a sudden you made a lot more money this year and you didn't have it all paid in. They wouldn't penalize you.
Okay.
The next year, if you don't want to get a huge refund either, because then they're using your money. In theory, you want a very small refund or to owe a very small amount. It's the perfect kind of withholding scenario.
Jamie, since we are DVRing Down Abbey, you guys, if you want to go yeah.
Mine. Oh my God.
Just trying to cheat the ribbons.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to cheat.
You're so weird. That's one thing we can do. Should have done.
No.
What are you doing, Lanny? Rah! Too much ribbon. Too much ribbon.
So this first.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I love this movie.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
It says there, I promise.
They're rocks. Is it just rocks? It's just rocks.
Go through the paper.
I don't want to. Oh, cool.
After all your hard work.
Just heat those stones up.
With dice.
Yum.
And yes,
Yum.
You're a good hunter.
It's the most I've seen you play the whole time I've been here, Lanny.
Oh, look at Jamie. She's
No.
looking at me.
People are looking at me.
You're funny.
Good one.
tasty mush.
Our connecting flight this morning, which was supposed to get us home, soon, is canceled. And we will not be leaving this airport for another 9 hours. We don't really know what to do with ourselves besides find a corner to sleep in. This is like the worst end to a vacation ever. These are terrible. We're sleeping on the floor in the airport. Good night.
There's a fire alarm activation thing going on. Nobody's moving. It's America. We don't see a fire or hear a fire. There's no point.
Yeah, the fire alarm's going off in the airport. Nobody cares. We don't see a fire.
Who is this big girl? Who is this big girl who's looking at me? What do you do? Hey, sit. Coco, sit. Coco, sit. Good girl. Aw, hi, Coco. My kitty. Hi, Molly.
I got this sauce. Okay. We're gonna cut some for the first time. Alright.
Well, we've been home for a few hours. Oh, and Reese's present came. Okay, this is what Risa got me for Christmas, and John too, I think. So there is a TARDIS tea infuser, a beaker mug, which I'm going to take to work. I'm so excited about this because if you guys do not know, I am a science teacher, and this is like the perfect thing. So I've got my mug and my tea infuser that I'll be taking to work. And then this one looks like a camera lens, but it is not. It is a travel mug. Look. It's insane! It looks super cool and suspicious, and then you go and drink from it and people are like, no! That's really cool. Thank you, Risa. So, our journey home. Where to begin? We spent Monday with my family. Most of Monday. It was very nice, very peaceful. And then at about 6 o'clock, my parents drove us to the airport. We had to say goodbye to Jamie and Kuro before we left. It was really sad. I miss my sister. We got to LAX. We checked in no problem, got our bags checked in no problem. The security did not take long at all. We went and had a snack, and then we headed to our gate. And once we were at our gate, they announced the crew that was supposed to go on our flight was arriving from another flight that was delayed. So our flight was delayed by like 20 minutes. Not a big deal, but while we were waiting, I went to check the flight status of our next flight, and it said canceled. And I was going, oh no. So John took our boarding passes for that flight and went up to the counter, asked the lady, and she typed some stuff on the computer, and she's like, oh no, everything's fine. I don't know what you're talking about. And she sent us back to our seat. So we're sitting there, and then we get an email from Delta saying that our flight was canceled and that they were rebooking us. So that's not really enough information. So we called them like 5 minutes before we were supposed to start boarding. We called them and talked to Delta, and they were like, well, we're rebooking you. It was canceled. We're rebooking you, but the earliest flight tomorrow from Cincinnati is leaving at 4 p.m. And our flight from LA was arriving there at 6:30 in the morning. So it was so long. So we get on our flight. Everything goes fine from LA to Cincinnati, except for once we got to Cincinnati, the weather was really brutal, so we were bouncing around a lot and tipping this way and tipping this way right in front of the runway, and it was really scary. But we did manage to land. We made it to our gate. We made it off the plane, no problem. We talked to the gate agent that was right there, and she said, yeah, you've been rebooked on the 4 p.m. flight. That was from Cincinnati to Charlotte. Once we got to Charlotte, we left our car with family, so we had to go to their house first, and then we were going to have to drive back from Charlotte. It's like a 3-hour drive. So by the time we got home, we knew it was going to be really late, so we went ahead and called our school and told them there's no way that we're going to be able to be at work on Wednesday. So that was kind of not stressful, but then, we arrived at the airport at 6:30, and we weren't leaving it until 4. So we found some chairs, we pushed them together, we tried to get a little bit of sleep, got a couple of hours. Both of us had been really uncomfortable on our flight from LA, and normally we're able to get like an hour or two of sleep when we're on a flight, but not that time. It was miserable. So we were able to get a couple of hours of sleep once we got to the airport in Cincinnati. And then after that, we decided to go have lunch, and we tried to take as long as possible doing that. And then we decided it was time for coffee. So we headed to the Starbucks, and right as we walk into the Starbucks, the fire alarms start going off in the airport. The fire alarm. Yeah, they're still taking our orders, and they're like, well, we might as well keep doing it, because we looked around, nobody saw a fire, nobody saw smoke, nobody outside of the Starbucks was reacting at all to the fire alarm, so we all just kind of simultaneously decided to ignore it. And they made us coffee, and we had finally just gotten our coffee when a lady came and closed the gate to the Starbucks, and she was like, we have to evacuate this area. But We were at first worried we were going to have to go outside because it was like -2 degrees outside Fahrenheit. And we were not equipped for that whatsoever, but they said we could just go to a different section, so ironically our gate was in another section, so we just headed to our gate. And then a while later the fire alarms went off and they were like, oh, it was a false alarm. So we finally get on our flight. We are sitting on our plane. We're taxiing to the runway. We see the runway. There's one other plane in front of us, and we're actually sitting there staring at the runway, when all of a sudden our plane just halts, and the pilot starts to power down everything. And the flight attendant comes on and says, apparently there was a water main break at air traffic control, and they have lost power, so we don't know what's going on, but we're going to be sitting here for a while. So we sat there. They tried to contact Indianapolis because apparently they can reroute us somehow, but Indianapolis had also lost power. I don't even know. So Indianapolis finally gets some power back and sends us on our way. We take off, no problem. It's a pretty short flight. We finally get to the Charlotte airport, and the bag that we checked at the gate in LA had not arrived. Nobody's bag had arrived from that flight. There was a whole flight, I think two flights from Atlanta. Their bags hadn't come. So then we're standing there, and some of the people had gotten their bags, but then there were whole bunches of bags that had not come. So we stand there for forever. Everybody's standing around baggage claim for like 45 minutes, just hoping their bags are going to magically come onto the carousel, and they don't. So we go to stand in line at baggage services, but so does everyone else. So we wound up leaving the airport about 2.5 hours after we arrived there. Oh, and also at the Charlotte airport, the heat wasn't working. And it was 20 degrees outside. So we're all standing there shivering, frozen, because, I mean, we expected it to be cold, but we also expected to grab our stuff and go in a car, you know? And so we're all standing in line for forever, finally get all that checked out. They're going to ship us our bag. It went to Atlanta, which makes no sense because we never went to Atlanta that day. But, you know, maybe they had reasoning beyond what I'm capable of understanding. But that should arrive today. John's family, Tim, came to pick us up because we left our car at their house. So Tim came to pick us up, but since we were waiting so long for our bag, he wound up going home and then coming back to get us again. We went back to their house, and we were joking that we probably needed to get out of Tim's car before we got like a flat tire or something else went wrong on this massive trip. So we get to Tim's house, and they've made us burgers to eat, and they made us some coffee, and it was so nice. And it was getting really late, so I mean, we stayed and we ate and we chatted a little bit, but then we just needed to get on the road. So we finally got on the road, drove all the way home. Everything seemed to be fine. I mean, our house is great. Our puppy was excited to see us. Polly was excited to see us, and she's also very upset with the puppy. Sawyer's alive, and the house is not burned down. I mean, everything seems great. Sawyer had kept the heat off the whole time, so we knew it was going to be cold, but he had turned the heat on right before we got there, and we left it on all night. We woke up this morning, and the house had not heated up. It's like 50-something degrees in the house. So we try all these things to fix our heater. We turned the power off and on just in case the thermostat wasn't doing something. We checked the unit in the attic. Everything seemed fine. There was air going into the vent and coming out of the vent, but it wasn't heated. And so we call the technician. It's a $90 visit just to come check out what's wrong. And 2 seconds before he comes, the heat starts working. Of course, he still checks everything out, and there was a wire that was a little bit loose, so he helped us out with that, and we need a new air filter and all this stuff. But I mean, those are some pretty crazy travel things, right? I mean, we had a delay, a lost bag, a fire alarm, power outages in 2 air traffic control things, bumpy landing, broken heater, lost bag, broken heating in the airport, and broken heating at our house. Like, what the heck? But we are home, and we're about to have some food and some coffee. It's about 3:30 in the afternoon. We go back to work tomorrow. Yay! Oh, I get to see my students. I'm really excited. I like them.